My name is Anna and I'm from Ukraine. And because we are neighbors of Russia, unfortunately I know a lot about Russian crimes. And they are not only limited to Russian war in Ukraine. Even without this war, there are many reasons to isolate Russia until it starts respecting the law. One of these reasons is extreme plagiarism and total disrespect to copyright inside Russian Federation, extremely widespread and present both on individual level and on national level too. In 2014, Russia started its new war against Ukraine. Not in 2022, in 2014. And this is also a year when Russian social media platform vkontakte was banned. And I personally think that vkontakte should have been banned long ago. Why? Because this is a huge resource of various plagiarized things, starting from music, films and videos, finishing with text and even porn. Is it expensive to buy a song or an album and to support your favorite artist? No, not at all, and we all know that. But Russians say, why should I pay for something that I can take for free? Seems like nothing specific, but this is also the reason why they have started war with Ukraine. Seems like they can take our life and enjoy our benefits. Why plagiarism and stealing of others people's creative products is so popular in Russia? I think it all dates back to the times of Soviet Union that was an extremely closed society. And very few people could travel abroad, get inspiration, which actually means steal ideas, and bring them back to Soviet Union. I will not concentrate in the video on the things they have stolen from temporarily occupied countries that were considered republics like Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova, but we will look at the samples that Soviet Union stole from the rotting West it actually hated so much. First of all, they began with films, especially favorite comedies. Even for me, who watched them as a child, it was really difficult to believe that these stories come from European Union or America. And of course, they did not mention that. And not only they steal the plot, but also the whole scenes and even images of main characters, which is definitely not the inspiration, but the act of criminal stealing of somebody's creative ideas. A weird fact that you may actually not know is the fact that modern Russian anthem was actually old Soviet anthem that was a bit rewritten. But former Soviet anthem was stolen from an old Ukrainian music composed by a Ukrainian composer, Mykola Lysenko. I know some good people that are desperately looking for some good Russians may say, well, creativity is so difficult to measure, then let's switch to something more material. Second army in the world, as Russia likes describing itself, turn out to be the second, maybe the fifth, or maybe even the hundredth in terms of military construction, because their military ideas they also steal from the USA, European Union and other enemies. What is worse, they do it for decades. Back in 30s, at the beginning of Soviet era, it was very common for Communist Party leaders to invite successful entrepreneurs and constructors from, let's say, the US, pretend that they sell them factories, steal their ideas, and then nationalize their companies. So, eternal advice that you can always use: never invest in Russia. In many films and books and even private conversations, people know Kalashnikov assault gun, AK-47 is a symbol of Russia. It is a Russian weapon. But in reality, it is a 95% copy of a German assault gun known as Sturmgewehr. What is also important to know, German rifle was developed in 1943 and Soviet equivalent in 1949. But of course, no one mentions that. Another very Soviet symbol is a car, named ZAZ 965, also known as Zaporozhets. It is almost an identical copy of the Italian Fiat. Soviets also loved copying Opels and Buicks. And here is the question: if you so much like the developments of the West, why do you call it rotting? We have a very interesting episode about the Soviet myth of rotting West that I greatly advise you to check if you haven't seen it yet. And of course, Soviet stealing and plagiarizing did not limit with cars, weapons, films. It continued to other types of technologies like television, radio, and even computer games. It is very common in Russia to describe everything Russian as great. They have the greatest scientists, the greatest industry, the greatest culture. And now we understand it is actually not that difficult if you constantly steal other people's ideas. But at the same time, it is a dead end. And Russia is in a dead end. They actually trick themselves. As a scientist, it was very unexpected for me to learn about the huge market of plagiarized articles and dissertations or written by somebody else in Russia. You can literally find thousands of announcements giving you a choice of different scientific works that someone will write or simply combine for you, stealing from other people's works. And you can find an email, a telephone, and no, Russian police does not react. That's okay, that's the way they do the things in Russia. And they have developed this art of copying to the highest extent. After the start of full-scale Russian war against Ukraine, many countries supported Ukraine, and not just countries, important companies that are symbols of free life. McDonald's is one of them. Actually, the first McDonald's opened in Moscow was really close in time with the collapse of Soviet Union, and to some extent was a symbol of new potential of Russia, freedom, democracy. But after 30 years of working in Russia, McDonald's restaurants closed. Thank you so much for this gesture. But for Russians, it is not a problem. They have reopened these restaurants, renamed them into Vkusna и Точка, copied menu, and believe they have what they need. But this is not true. Looting, stealing, plagiarizing. This is Russian national tradition. And sometimes it seems there is no way to fight them and to stop that. But you know, one of the most important conclusions that I have come up to: you cannot grow, evolve and develop by stealing. So even if they watch these films illegally, or if they eat in something that once was McDonald's, it is not true, it is not real, and it is not something that can bring growth and development. Growth and development in Russia? Is it possible at all? Not until we change the society and, of course, the regime. Remember to subscribe and share, because informational war of Russia against the democratic world is very real, and we have to stay united. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons, but most importantly, thank you for your support of Ukraine.